Hello everyone, I'm Aseem, Jakhar, founder Exploity, and today we have with us Yogesh Badwe, Chief Security Officer at Druva. Yogesh, thank you for joining us in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
So, given your experience leading security programs at industry-leading organizations, what are the biggest shifts you are seeing in cloud security today, and how should security teams be adapting?
So it's a great question. So I think, fundamentally, there are maybe three big things that are happening in cloud security. Number one that I would call out is platformization, right? If you look at the non-cloud world, you have tools that do one particular thing. So you have a scanner for finding vulnerabilities, you have EDR on the endpoint, you might have hardening tools that are separate, but the same paradigm doesn't work the same way in the cloud. So what we are seeing is a lot of the cloud capabilities and tools, they are getting consolidated together into a single platform, which is a major trend, right? So over the next year or two, you will potentially see a single platform solving most of the cloud security use cases instead of buying point products in the cloud to solve point solutions. So that's number one. With the rise of AI, we are also starting to see the need for faster and improved threat detection. So more improved detection, improved response capabilities using generative AI in the cloud is probably the second trend. The third thing that I'll call out for the cloud is, more generally there is a problem of too much insight, right? Too many tools, too much insight across a lot of different perspectives, and security teams are finding it hard to do whack-a-mole and try to fix that insight, right? So there is a big trend I see is a shift into the secure by default or secure by design approaches when it comes to cloud security, where a lot of the teams want to try to mitigate the findings even before they get into production, right, at the infrastructure and cloud security level, whether it is by using hardened images or using more secure infrastructure as code Terraform templates. So I think, broadly, these are the three key cloud security trends that I see happening that security teams need to be aware of going into the next year.
All right. And how do you see the role of non-human entities like services, APIs, bots evolving in cybersecurity? And what are the major risks that companies are overlooking?
Yeah, I think again a big blind spot when it comes to most security teams, right? If you look at the last maybe 5 to 10 years, as a community, we have spent a lot of time improving human access, human authorization, right? Whether it is by deploying and increasing adoption of phishing-resistant MFA like FIDO2. But with all of that, I think companies forgot that there is another type of access that exists, which is non-human in nature, right? A lot of security challenges with that because most of the visibility and governance that you do on human identities does not apply to non-human identities. You can't have MFA for non-human identities. You can't have provisioning and deprovisioning the same way that you have for you and me, apply the same way to non-human identities, right? So they are more long-lived. Typically, you see non-human identities have much bigger scopes in terms of the access they have, and very hard to govern. So I think definitely a big problem. And you see companies now starting to pick that up and try to solve that problem by getting a lot more visibility, a lot more governance, putting some security control and structure around how these non-human identities are used going forward, which is the need of the hour, right? I mean, if you look at the last 2 years, a lot of the public breaches have had a non-human identity component associated with it, which is the reason why this is kind of bubbling up as an area for everybody to focus on.
So ransomware continues to be one of the top threats, right? From a resilience perspective, what should organizations prioritize to not just respond, but truly recover from these attacks?
Yes, it's a good question. Look, I mean, if you look at the spectrum of things that security teams do, right? Prevention, detection, response, and recovery. Last 20 years, we have probably spent a disproportionate amount of time on prevention early on. And then over the last decade into more detection, right? Even investment has gone a lot more there. But as your question pointed out, we need to focus a lot more on the resilience and recovery aspect. Not to downplay prevention, I think a very sound strategy is to think about getting your fundamentals right in terms of your security controls and security posture to prevent ransomware infections from happening in the first place, rather than thinking about resilience. But resilience is important, right? And I think there are three buckets that you can think about, which is people, process, and technology in terms of how to be more resilient as an organization. Technology, I would say, of course, thinking about backups. Having backups that have been tested so that they are there for you to recover from, having a good understanding of the type of data your organization has, the classification of data, where that data resides, what is critical for your business, and how do you recover it, and testing that recovery is important, right? Because you don't want to be in a state where you are facing an incident and you are not confident about your ability to recover from that incident from a data perspective. Also, I think it's important to keep in mind that data recovery is different than ransomware recovery. If there is a disaster, you can recover the data pretty easily, but recovering data from ransomware has some nuances with it, right? You might want to have the capability to scan for indicators of compromise in that data before you recover it, or you might want to figure out what is the right file to recover that is not encrypted. So there are complexities that you need to consider if you are thinking about resiliency against ransomware that is unique to just the ransomware threat, right? So you need to think about that from a tool perspective. From a process perspective, very important to have a crisis management muscle in the company, right? Do you know what is the right procedure to get internal stakeholders from legal to your PR team, right? Engineering and IT stakeholders involved and working as a team. Do you know how to get your external stakeholders, whether it is external legal counsel, your insurance brokers, how to get all of them together and respond to it as a crisis is, I think, very important. When it comes to ransomware, it's even more critical to have a strategic crisis management muscle in place, more on top of incident response, because in many cases we see, right, when there is a ransomware incident, there is always a question of whether do you pay a ransom, and those are non-technical aspects where there are legal connotations to answer that question, not necessarily just technical conversations. And in many cases, those conversations or decisions happen at the board or at the executive level, right? So role-playing all of that using IR tabletops, war games, and really having that crisis management muscle in place is very important to be ready, so that you can have that muscle memory and recreate those things easily when there is an actual incident in place.
So resilience is pretty much more difficult than detection.
I think equally important, but often overlooked is what I would say. Yeah.
All right. So as someone who's helped Okta through their IPO and now you're leading security at Druva, how do you build a security culture that can scale during hypergrowth?
How do you build a security culture? I think it's interesting, right? It's not just security culture, but any culture of the company. You don't really build. I believe you don't build the culture in the company. You hire the culture in the company, right? So what is the company culture? When you ask that question, it's pretty much a common denominator across all the culture that all employees bring inside the company. So hiring is very important. So having if you are lucky enough to be early on as a company, then hiring the right kind of talent that has the security perspective or the security mindset, even though that might not be their real job, is very important. Because once you get to a initial steady state of people who have the security understanding and knowledge, then they hire like-minded people, and the security culture automatically improves. It's also important to set the tone at the top, the top, right? I think culture starts at the from the top and is hired from the bottom. So your management team, right from your CEO, CTO, CIO, not just your CISO, right, thinking about security and prioritizing it from a business perspective is very important, because that message kind of percolates throughout the organization and helps improve the culture overall of the company.
Okay. And do you see over the years that this mindset has changed at the board level, where people are now more aware and talking and taking account of security?
Absolutely. I think definitely over the last 10 years, we have seen a lot of change. Many Fortune 500, Fortune 2000 companies now have a security committee as part of the board, right? Traditionally you have the audit committee, compensation, governance, right? But now many companies have a security community, so board members that are dedicated to do governance on the security aspects of it. Maybe 5 years back, a lot of at least here in the US, regulatory oversight on boards and on companies have incentivized a move towards more top-level management on the execution of the security function in most companies, right? So definitely changing across the board, and a part of the reason is incidents, right? I mean, I think 20 years back, if I remember, having one security incident in the news used to be a big thing. Nowadays, it's very hard. If you go for 1 week and there hasn't been anything in the news, that has not been an incident, right? And then I think lastly, non-security business stakeholders now understand the financial impact of having a security incident. Now there is probably a increase in terms of awareness from a security impact perspective that business people have on how to think about the risk that exists to the business, not just from a technical perspective, right? Security people always think about vulnerabilities and 0 days, but more so from a what is at risk here from a revenue loss or company brand perspective. There's a lot more awareness to that, and so that has changed the nature of security and given it a seat at the executive table to be heard and taken seriously over the last decade.
Thank you so much. We were speaking to Yogesh Badwe, Chief Security Officer, Duva. This is Aseem Jakhar signing off from ISMG Studio. Thank you so much.